The U.S. President Joe Biden has reportedly authorized Ukraine to use American-supplied weapons to strike deep into Russia.
This first such approval before Donald Trump takes office marks a major reversal of U.S. policy, and it's been long demanded by Kyiv.
Сьогодні багато в медіа говорять про те, що ми отримали дозвіл на відповідні дії. Але удари завдають не словами. Такі речі не анонсують. Ракети самі за себе скажуть. Обов'язково. Слава Україні!
Multiple reports cite U.S. officials as saying the U.S. policy change is likely in response to North Korea deploying troops to help Moscow. Reports say Ukraine plans to conduct its first long-range attack using Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, which have a range of up to 306 kilometers. It wants to hit Russian targets far from its borders, hoping it would force Moscow to the negotiating table.
A key Russian lawmaker has warned Washington's decision could lead to World War III. Now, tomorrow marks the 1,000th day since Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And Mr. Biden is heading to the G20 summit in Rio, where world leaders are expected to discuss the conflict in Ukraine, among other pressing issues.
Well, joining us this morning on the show is Alexander Korolev, Senior Lecturer in Politics and International Relations at the University of New South Wales. Dr. Korolev, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Now, we're told that Biden's change of heart was prompted by developments in Kursk. I'm curious, why is that region so important? We know it's part of Russia, for example, when Ukraine's been struggling for months now in the eastern parts of the country, which basically is its own territory.
Right. Well, I think the main incentive behind Biden's decision and the timing of the Biden's decision is basically to make the life of the incoming President Donald Trump as difficult as possible. Democrats were confident they would win, but this didn't happen. And now this decision does change the operational parameters of Donald Trump. So Trump, during his campaign and before he officially started campaigning, made many very flashy statements about how he would end the war in Ukraine within a day or within a week or very promptly. I think this decision makes it more difficult for Trump to sort of make any decisive moves towards Ukraine without looking like he's actually a Russia supporter. So I think this is the major motivation behind Biden's decision. There are still ways for Trump to pull his agenda through, but it's going to look more difficult for the Republicans and for Trump specifically, who promised to end the war in Ukraine, which is, again, we can debate the feasibility of this statement, but he did say that.
And Dr. Korolev, what exactly can ATACMS do on the battlefield that planes, drones, and conventional artillery cannot? I mean, there's talk about range, but drones can fly a lot further these days, and so can planes. So why and how many of these ATACMS did the U.S. and its allies give to Ukraine to make a difference?
Well, that's a great point. I don't think it will make a significant difference. It's mostly a political and symbolic decision. As you rightly noted, drones can fly even further. The 300 kilometers are not much for a country like Russia. Those missiles won't be able to hit any significant political centers. It's really mostly probably aiming at the Kursk region and other occupied territories, occupied by Russia, originally Ukrainian territories. So it is, again, I see it mostly as a political maneuvering in the White House, again, to sort of to do the right thing, so to speak, by the Democrats, and to make to make Trump suffer, in a sense, as a political figure. That's the primary motivation, I would say, because, again, technically speaking, it's not going to be a turning point. It's not going to tip balance of power significantly in Ukraine's favor. So, yeah, I think it might result in more deaths on both sides, but it's not going to change the the dynamics and the outcome of the war in Ukraine.
Okay, I mean, the Russians have, the lawmakers have came out warning of World War III even, and a swift response. How real is this threat of significant escalation and the potential for direct retaliation against U.S. and NATO allies?
I'm very doubtful about the direct retaliation against U.S. or NATO allies, but the dangers of escalation are real, and it might sort of justify for Russia to take bolder moves against Ukraine, something that Russia has been holding back a little bit, but now sort of, okay, now our hands are loose and sort of we're free to do whatever is justifiable from the standpoint of war making, of gaining tactical advantages. Also, the factor of North Korean soldiers is quite interesting there, because it's about the Ukraine war gaining Asia Pacific dimension eventually. So this makes it more interesting, interesting in a sense of geopolitical analysis and implications for you ask about World War III. So this is there are many scenarios of how the war might get more complex internationally, and really become some form of World War III. Again, define what is the World War III in the modern context. It's not about 2 or 3 armies marching against each other. It's more likely like a variation of some form of a Cold War, I guess, or hybrid war. But yes, the dangers of escalation are real. But I wouldn't, again, go ahead of myself predicting that now Russia will hit U.S. or NATO, directly hit NATO members in Europe. I think it's more of a process. That's not going to happen, I believe.
And Dr. Korolev, you earlier mentioned that the aim is really to make Trump's life more difficult. But speculation is that the president-elect could reverse the Biden administration's decision, given his, as you mentioned, the focus on bringing a swift end to the war. Do you think that he would and adopt a completely or a different strategy entirely?
Again, yes, Trump can reverse the decision, obviously, but it will look it won't look nice. I mean, this will look as a straightforward kind of termination of one aspect of U.S.'s support of Ukraine. So it's not going to look nice. It will look okay to Trump supporters, but it's not going to look nice to U.S.'s allies, especially in Europe. I still would be quite cautious about predicting a dramatic shift in Trump's policies towards Ukraine. We already had Trump's presidency before Biden took office. And before that term, Trump also predicted a lot. So promised a lot, saying, I will improve my conversation with Putin, with my relations with Russia. We will sign the trade deal or some sort of a security agreement. Nothing of that sort actually happened. In fact, under Trump's first presidency back then, U.S.-Russia relations deteriorated significantly. So I would take this wait-and-see approach. And there are many factors. Trump's major concern is China, not Russia. But this doesn't mean that will be interested in immediately sort of aligning Russia through terminating U.S.'s support of Ukraine. So there might be some rhetorical changes but again, I wouldn't predict this, like Trump being able to end the war and change everything.
Understood. Dr. Korolev, we have to leave it there. We thank you very much for your time and for your thoughts this morning. Alexander Korolev, Senior Lecturer in Politics and International Relations at the University of New South Wales.